Hey guys, Ben's back. You guys haven't heard from me in a while, and I know that. I'm very sorry. I've been busy with school. I had to write a big paper for high school, which is tradition in Denmark that on your third year, your last year, you have to write a big paper called the SRP. The estimate is around 15 to 20 pages, and I ended up writing 18 and a half. I know it doesn't like sound like a lot, but when you don't do that usually, it takes quite a while. I had 2 weeks to complete it, and I ended up sitting the last night and just writing away. Not that I was missing anything, but I needed to correct my mistakes and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm back now with the end of the year review that I wanted to do. So first of all, I don't have a man bun anymore. I got a haircut. I thought that it was about time to get that, so I ended up getting the haircut. And now people say that I look like a dapper young man, which I guess is good. Anyways, let's take a look at this year. So here in December, it marks my my 2.8 years casting period. I've been casting for 2 years and 8 months then, um, which means that I've nearly been casting for 3 years, and that means that I started when I was 16. I'm 19 now, by the way. Um, so I've been casting for so long, and honestly, when I looked back at what events I did throughout the year, I was very surprised because I felt like a lot of the events that I did this year was last year. So that's very surprising to me. But I've had so many events. I've had an amazing year in terms of both development, growth. I've had so many different opportunities to cast different events, and I've been having international events. I've had a few national events too, and my English casting has just improved so much, which I'll get back to later on. But the first the first event of the year was in January. That was Patchland, and it was the first event of the year. It was a very fun event, and I don't think that I've ever been spoiled that much. I think I had a LAN last year in the summer, which was called uh, I can't remember the name of it, but I was very spoiled at that event. And when I say spoiled, it was because I was allowed to go into the cafeteria and take food all the time or take a drink or something like that. At Patchland, I was allowed to buy food. Well, I wasn't allowed to buy food. They bought food for me. Sorry. Um, I had an unlimited amount of energy drinks, more or less, that I could get, and it was a very fun event. So that was the first event of the year. It didn't have the best production value. We had fun, however. We It was me, Lotzi, my usual co-caster in Denmark, and Kader, a new and upcoming co-caster, sorry, new and upcoming telecaster in Denmark, um, who we tried out for that event. She did well. We had fun. But then again, going back to production value, I mean, I think we had a blue snowball to like share between the three of us, so it wasn't very good. But I learned a lot about my casting style at this event, I'd say, because usually, I'd say in the start of the year, I was very all around. I was everywhere. I wanted to talk about everything. I think that event gave me a lot of food for thought because I was allowed to look at specific things that I wanted to do and talk about because Kader was uh, basically new to the whole thing. And that meant that she was all around, that and therefore she would be talking all the time. Therefore, I could just cut in whenever I want to look specific. And I'll get to this later on because I want to talk a little bit about my development. But after Patland, I had an online event called Lion or yeah, it's a French event. Lion Esports 10th final. So I only did the final. I think I did uh the two semifinals, the third. No, I think I did the third place decider match and the grand final. And I did that with Alex Magical Wielden, and it was ridiculous. Like it was a very fun event. I loved the guys that I worked with. They were so amazing to work with this organization. And it was online, by the way. Um, but I did this with Magical Voice, and the times, as I said, was ridiculous. He would have to get up during the night because he lives in the US. So he would have to stay up, or he had to stay up late because it was super hard and very stressful. There was some good games though, and I really loved having a clean feed to cast off of, which was super amazing. And then I think that I hit a point at this event where I felt like you're not going anywhere. I felt like I was basically just casting event back to back, basically, but I wasn't progressing in terms of how I wanted to improve on my casting, which direction I wanted to take. Um, but then that leads me to Canada, where I went with Compete League and I also did the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo. Um, and this is by far my favorite event. It's the best event that I've ever had. I really love to cast both at Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, but also the Compete League finals because I mean I love to cast. I think it's so amazing, and I really love to talk about the game, sorry, the games that I do cast, and just whatever's happening in the game. I love to be able to develop those storylines. But this event, or at least the Compete League one, it cemented my love for the analyst desk because I feel like I belong more on the analyst desk than as a caster. I feel like I'm able to put my points down better as an analyst than the caster. But then again, that's why I'm looking to improve my casting so that I can become a better caster. But I just think that the analyst desk is a whole nother beast to tame, and it was so much fun. I really loved it. But one of the reasons that I also loved this event was because you went there and it was offline with a lot of casters, and everyone is passionate about this game. So we were backstage, we were screaming, we were yelling, we were talking about League of Legends at the analyst desk, and even the guys that were off the analyst desk. It was so much fun. I mean, it really was an amazing experience to get to talk to guys about League of Legends, to people who are as passionate about something that you love as you're passionate about it. Um, and I think that this event made the biggest impact on my path in terms of casting this year. It gave me so much food for thought again. It gave me so many thoughts that I had to look at because I was casting with counterfeit. I did the Diamond Plus finals, which is basically the biggest honor you can get in terms of casting for Compete League. It is the premier league in EU. I developed a new bond with Peter here, because we've been casting ever since. We're basically casting everything together if I'm not casting with Magical Voice, usually. So I developed a new bond with him, but I felt like again that I was all over the place, and therefore I got so much food for thought. And with Peter, I have then been able to look at my casting and try to develop that towards a new path that I want to look at. But after Canada, after I came back to that, I was hired by the National Association of Collegiate Esports, um, and I did that with Peter again. We were hired to do the grand finals, and they were very late in the evening because it was a North American an A North American event after all. It was a super interesting event because we tried something new. We actually tried to build a script around it. We tried to gain as much information as possible around the event, around the circumstances for the finals, around the teams. It wasn't the best cast from my side. I was very tired. I don't work well late at night, but it was very fun and it was very enjoyable because of the whole scene around it. You had a whole collegiate scene around Nace, and that just made it so much more enjoyable because of these huge stakes that that you knew people went in with when they went to play the grand final. Um, but this was like my first step towards developing storylines, and I know that casters are supposed to do this all the time. Casters are supposed to get as much information as possible. They're supposed to know as much about the teams, the game, everything, every time. And I try to do that. I mean, know I try to do that. I even did that at Patchland. But sometimes it's just very hard to gather up information, to know every little thing about some of these teams because you haven't watched them play before. You haven't heard about them. You don't know the scene, stuff like that. So sometimes it can be very hard. But coming off of Nace, Peter and I, we then knew that, well, we could develop this. Scripts, storylines, it's something that we can actually do now that we have an idea about how it works. So we did the ESL Southeast Europe Championship Season 5 final. We were hired in by ESL to do that. It was again an an online event, not an offline, and online. It was a super long day. I think we casted for at least 10 hours, around 10. Uh, but it was just a very fun event again because you had this whole scene around it. It is, after all, Southeast Europe. So you had uh, super strong teams from Hungary, from Greece, from all of these Southeast Europe um, countries coming in and playing. And good teams, they meant that you had fun games. Did the semifinals, we did the grand final as well, and we tried storylines. We came to a medium-sized in terms of storylines. Like we didn't have everything there, but it wasn't like we used the storyline one time and then left. We tried to revisit it time and time again. And while it wasn't good enough, it was the first step towards developing a good storyline and actually becoming a storyteller that casters are supposed to be. After that, cross-border esports at Sønderborg Castle. It wasn't my best performance, and it was a super hard event. I had to drive there. It was an hour drive every day, um, and you had to imagine that you come home around. Well, first day I came home around 10, 10 p.m. Sorry, yeah, 10 p.m. It no, sorry, 10 a.m. It wasn't. No, 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 10 p.m. Sorry, my bad. I'm not that good at. I'm trying my hardest. I usually use the digital watch, I guess you call it. Anyways, I came home at 10 in the evening. Let's just put it that way. Day one, day two, I came home at something past midnight. I had to drive there because I didn't want to sleep down there. I had high school after all, each day, so both days. But there was also various reasons to why it was a bad performance. Or I wouldn't call it necessarily a bad one, but not my best performance. I won't go into the nitty gritty details about it because it isn't something that everybody should know about. But just stuff. Well, I enjoyed it. It was a fun thing casting at a castle, and I do want to try that again. I do hope that I'll be hired to do that as well again. But then I also developed a relationship, one can call it, with with a viewing party organization in Denmark called Bitsplash. They work together with film, Nordic films, I guess they're called, cinemas, and they then host different viewing parties for different LAN parties or whatever. So I worked with them for the first time in the summer, where I did the PGL Major Krakow, where whenever I'm hired in, I'm the host. So I host these viewing parties. I was hired in for the PGL Major Krakow, and I was also hired in for the League of Legends World Finals. It was fun. I think it's very it's a bit frightening to go out that way, because I have casted for sorry in front of people before, but being a host is something that I don't think that I am the best at it. But it's fun. I enjoy it. It's a nice way of getting out to know people, getting out to reach out to the community. I think my last event of the year, like the one big one that is worth mentioning, was the Modern Combat 5 in Poland with ESL, which was in September. I was hired in to fly out to Poland with ESL to cast Modern Combat 5 at their Polish office. And I flew out to cast with Call of Duty legend Phil Momo Whitfield. It was a fun event. I learned a lot by talking to Momo about how you should uh, just work around the esports scene. I don't think that I did the best I could. It was very hard. It was a very tough schedule. You had to go in, cast for 4 hours, go out, get something to eat, wait 2 hours, and then go back to cast for 4 hours, which is very hard. Um, and I also missed my flight on the way home, and I got stuck in Warszawa for the night. My fault. I learned from my mistake. Um, but yeah, I think that's about it for my the events that is worth mentioning for the year of 2017. So let's take a look at my development and my videos. So I made 74 videos in 2017, 75, count this in, and I'm incredibly proud of Benvarmeren's breakdowns. I know that it might not be I might not always, or I may not always put things the right way. I sometimes create these weird sentences. After all, I'm not a native English speaker, but I think Benvarmeren's breakdowns show that I can talk about different stuff in terms of what I want to analyze. I can analyze pick and ban faces. Sometimes I can analyze plays in the game. And I'm very proud of the long video series that I've made for Benvarmeren's breakdowns about composition. I think that's a very nice series. It took me ages to make it. It took me like not a week. I think it took 3 or 4 days, at least 1 or 2 days, where I just said editing. Um, and I also love Benvarmeren's Continuums because it allows me to talk about whatever I want. I feel like something that I learned a lot from was Benvarmeren's Continuums, where I talked about um, the event I did with Rad Game in Dublin. Because I was very stuck in that. I think that I was very caught up in all of the feedback that I got. I looked at it the wrong way, and just talking it over with myself in Benvarmeren's Continuum helped me quite a lot. So let's look at the year where I have improved quite a lot. I've talked to so many different pro-casters, even amateur casters this year, because I've been looking to really work on my casting. So I've been talking to people from the LPL. I've been talking to people from the LCK, from the EU LCS as well. I've talked to people from Completely, from NA. I've talked to so many people, and they have all helped me give me feedback. And one thing that really stuck to me that I got from an LPL caster was I should look to do weekly goals a monthly goal, and I should write that down somewhere so I can look at it all the time, which meant that I invested into a whiteboard. And I think that the whiteboard is probably one of the best things that I've ever done in terms of trying to improve my casting. You can learn a lot from casting, of course. Obviously, practice makes perfect. But having a whiteboard that I can look at all the time sometimes makes me feel guilty. I feel like the best way that I can improve, or at least to remember that I need to work on stuff, is by having something out front, something that I can look at all the time, something that is right in my face the whole time that will never disappear unless I actually throw it away. Um, and I've also learned to embrace feedback because I know that I hit a very low point in terms of feedback when I did the rap games event over in Dublin, and it made me very angry at first. I mean, how can I be bad at something? How can my casting not be good enough to to continue casting with Riot Games, but to be hired in the first place? Um, and it made me realize that obviously something was wrong. I needed to work on this. I cannot go on this way because if you are told by so many professional guys, by by a lot of people that something obviously is wrong, well, then something is wrong. And that made me realize that I need to work on that. That's why I hit up professional casters. That's why I looked to make personal development in terms of casting. That's why I've, for at least 2 or 3 months now, have been working on improving my early game. I've wanted to improve my early game because I wanted to be better at storylining. I want to become a better narrator. I want to make these storylines. I want to tell a story, and that's why personal development, just having these goals set out for me, is the way to go. That's why I looked at early game. Now I have moved on to mid game because I feel like that's my weakest point right now. That's something that I will look to continue on working. Sorry, to continue to work on here in 2018. My first paid gig was at the end of 2016, and I got many more during 2017. I've had so many paid gigs, um, which I appreciate a lot. It's a way of letting me know. I feel like that I'm actually worth paying, and that I'm an actual talent in terms of esport casting, which is cool. That's why I now call myself a semi-pro. I don't call myself an amateur anymore. I think I'm a semi-pro at this point because I've moved above the point where you call me an amateur. Um, I've improved on my LinkedIn. I went to a presentation with the Academy of Talented Youth, which I am a part of, and at the presentation we heard about how to use LinkedIn, how to make yourself stand out from the rest, stand out from the crowd, how to make yourself more presentable and more attractive to people who want to hire you. I've written 4 articles in casting. I've made Google slides presentations on champions. I think that I've been very active this year, more than in 2016, but I'm not satisfied yet. I feel like there's still so much more that I can learn, and there obviously is. I just feel like 2017, it's been a hella good year, and hopefully 2018 can continue. I finished high school in 2018. I'll be done, and then I'll have to look for something consistent. If it'll be Riot Games or ESL or even something third, I don't know, but I'll try to find something, and I'll hopefully find something. We'll have to see. Time will tell. For now, I've been very fortunate, and I mean, I'm not in a position to complain at all. I've been very fortunate, and hopefully my lucky streak can continue. But I've also made some New Year's resolutions for myself, I want to continue working on the small stuff in terms of casting, improving that. I've looked at improving early, told you, but now I'm working on mid. It's not about the big picture anymore. I need to get down to the nitty gritty stuff. I also would love to work on one more international event outside of Europe. Uh, though I think it's important to get international events just inside of Europe or anywhere in the first place. I'd love to go to the US or Asia, but international events is something that I aim at getting once again. And I also want to continue being active here on my YouTube. I hope that I can continue to be this active. Um, and hopefully we'll have to just see. I think that I want to continue on using Benvarmeren's breakdowns, Benvarmeren's continuums. Sorry, continuum as well. But Benvarmeren's breakdowns is my focus point at this point. But I think that's more or less it. Anyway, uh, I think that's what I have to say about 2017. It's been a good year, as I've told you guys, and hopefully it'll continue in 2018. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to shoot them to me either here on YouTube, or on my Facebook or Twitter. I'm happy to talk to people all the time, and I hope to hear from you guys. But with that said, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll continue to support me in 2018. I love to talk to all of my fans. I love to be able to work with all of you people, and I'll catch you in the new year.